All right, so we still have not heard anything, not a thing from Kawhi Leonard, have we? All right, we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Unlike waiting on Godot, I do believe at some point there will be there will be an answer. Kawhi Leonard will show up at somebody's doorstep. We just don't know where. Can I offer up a couple of possibilities? Listen, I don't know if he chooses the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Raptors. I don't know. But I do think there's something that possible that happens. If he chooses the Lakers, I've heard people say, why even watch the NBA next year? Why even watch? Well, I'll offer up this as a possibility, as a discussion. Wouldn't it create villains? Movies need villains, right? The Lion King's coming back out. Scar is a villain. Name me the movie that doesn't have the bad guy. All right. I mean, remember when Nakatomi Plaza was taken over in Die Hard, you had the terrorists, right? Think of, in Star Wars, you have the Empire. And in the NBA, you need villains. Heck, in the NFL, you need villains. We've always needed a bad guy. It's one of the things that Belichick does a great job of. We're on to Cleveland. We're on to Cincinnati, right? I don't want to answer any of your questions. I'm going to wear a hoodie. Are they cheating? Are they inflating balls? Whatever. We have to create some sort of villainy. And I don't think you hand a team that is comprised of, even if they have three of the top 5 players in the NBA, and Kyle Kuzma won, it's become a guards game and they won't have guards. It's become a 3-point shooting league. And look, LeBron has become a much better 3-point shooter and Kawhi has too, but it's not like they're 3-point shooters. It's not what they do. Right? And it gives you an empire. I mean, you guys remember Star Wars? The Empire has all the cool ships. And yet somehow the rebels find a way. So I offer up the possibility that the Lakers could become the NBA's villains. And this discussion we're having about why we even watch the NBA. I heard the exact same discussions last year about the Golden State Warriors. 5 All-Stars on one team. I was like, dude, DeMarcus Cousins is coming off an Achilles, and it's a perimeter players game. It's not a centers game anymore. We heard the same discussions last year. Oh, the best team ever. They didn't even have the best record in the West. So I look at it and I'm sitting there going, I don't think it's the end of the world. Actually, the Golden State Warriors did have the best record in the West. I apologize. They didn't have the best record in the NBA. They had the 3rd best record in the NBA, behind the Raptors, behind the Milwaukee Bucks. But they didn't win an NBA title. Granted, they had massive wholesale injuries, which could be part of the story. But I look at it and I think, okay, the Lakers. Now, here's the other possibility. The offseason story has been really about the Brooklyn Nets, who they haven't been second fiddle to the Knicks. They've been second fiddle in the NBA to the Knicks. But they're like the 7th most popular professional sports franchise in New York City, in the tri-state area. And yet now the Nets are more the thing than the Knicks are. And while I don't know the longevity of it, and I don't know if it will in fact work, I do know that even though there are historic powers that seem to be forever, if the Clippers could get Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi stretching this timeline out eliminates much of the supporting pieces that the Lakers could go after, it could have a doubly effective effect. not only would it allow the Clippers to line out what they want to do to potentially trade Danilo Gallinari and get him another player or whatever, but they could also, like, who's the Lakers going to have? You'd help the Clippers and hurt your competition. It's brilliant. Genius. Diabolical, and maybe not the reason, and I think likely not the reason that Kawhi is doing this, but it is an ancillary benefit. So I know that you're like me and you have no patience for it, or at least I think you're like me and you have no patience for it. And you want Kawhi to just make up your mind. But man, do we have a couple of possibilities here. And it's really, really interesting what he selects. If he takes the Lakers, they become the villains. And if you want to say that we haven't seen a franchise like this, probably haven't seen a 3 players in the top 5. But there was a time when they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper was Defensive Player of the Year, and they had Magic Johnson all in the same club. All in the same club. But it would create villainy. Bad guy. Somebody to root against. You know, you create your negative storylines. LeBron, he can't do it by himself. He's got to go get Kawhi Leonard. And I'm not sitting here telling you I love it. Like, I like the idea more of having your own team and going and beating somebody else who has their own team. But I also know that there are mitigating circumstances here. It is moving home. And if that's what you want to do, I can't blame you. I can't blame you. I've moved home twice in my professional career. And there are great things about it and bad things about it. The great thing is, like, yeah, I don't have to reintroduce myself to most people that I grew up around. I may have to fill them in on the 15 years that I was gone, but when I was back, I was back. You can kind of drive places blindfolded, know where you're going. There's a vibe to the place that's not foreign. I've liked moving to different places and getting to know different coffee shops and different people and families. And but on the other hand, when you don't have equity with people, it's harder. It's harder for your kids. It's harder for you. Harder socially. So I understand what moving home means. And I do think that changes it. But there's 3 very different choices. Apparently now there's some sizable crowd gathered around where Kawhi Leonard's having a free agency meeting with the Toronto Raptors. And we sit and we wait. And as much as people think the Lakers, if they get him, will ruin the NBA, I actually think it'll help the NBA. There'll be times in which they just have too much talent and they overpower a lesser team. But you'll be rooting for the underdog. Unless you're a Laker fan, you will be an anti-Laker fan. And it'll be the David versus Goliath. And it'll be guards and three-point shooting versus these 3 mammoth, monumental superstars and whoever else they bring in. Or then he could bring in the Clippers and in a diabolical way take away from any possible chance that the Lakers can put a team around LeBron James, because in waiting for Kawhi Leonard, they've hurt their own chances of getting a supporting cast.